goofing around. Audio. Yeah, keep that. I think it's that quiet in the background, I hope. Hi, I'm back. I wanted to do this demo for my Intro to Cartooning course. Sort of a continuation of something I started in our first class. Let's get rid of that. I don't need to be this big. Oops. Not that. There we go. Alrighty. Later I'm going to figure out how to do the green screen thing so I can be hovering in the bottom corner and something. But I don't really want to put a thing in behind me, so yeah. I don't know. This. So I did a couple of things. I did this funny bunny guy, and I did a goat. Started off with this goat, which is from reference from a goat in a photo, and slightly cartoonized, simplified the shapes, just to demonstrate how that's done. And then I did this guy, this version, to sort of try to take it further, which I did some, simplified it more. And then after the class, I did this one, which is sort of like, it's kind of like action goat or sexy goat, I was saying in the last clip. And I want to go off in some more directions. And then also with this one, this is originally was a cat wearing a headband. I want to make it an actual bunny cat. So I'm going to revisit that too. And this is further adventures in cartooning, which is constructive drawing and simplification and making things into icons themselves. So here, let's take a little walk through my sketchbook to get there. I did that while I was watching, I think you can guess what, some Mandalorian and Yoda. Baby, not really Baby Yoda. It's the baby, it's the thing. But, you know, what's going on with that? You know what? You don't need to see me. Nah. So yeah. Color's a little sickly. It's a bit warmer, that's nice. We can work on that a little. I got these nice cheap LED lights and I really like that they have a basic rudimentary. Oops. That's bluer. There we go. More yellow. That's good. More warm. There we are. I think it feels like that's what we're looking for. So this was color erase pencils, sketches, a little bit of reference, but mostly just playing for fun for me. That was me working on design for the character for the box, and some fishy, deep sea, oceany, tentacly, octopusy things. Basically those, but from memory and making them up. And I was thinking about a spider for the automaton. I might use it for something else, but I did not go with that for the automaton. This was a demo sketch. So this was one of the people when we were doing sketching at the theater, at the Siegel Center Theater. And this is one of the people who came to sketch, and I used them to do a demo. So I did gesture and then shades to do a quick capture, speed drawing of someone. And then these are actual actors from the play, drawn very quickly in the dark as the play was going on. Which is a thing that I've been doing recently. Partnering up with Siegel Center and my dynamic drawing class. That was the end of that one. It was a good play. This is a study for an Andrew Wyeth painting, breaking it down, doing some analysis. This is another Siegel Center show. They had it prematurely in because of the shutdowns. Musical review of revolutionary music in the 60s, I think. Yeah. Cartoon idea I had. Is there more? There's definitely more flipping around in here, but I'm not going to. I'm going to start. That's it. That's where we are. We've found our spot. It's a relatively new sketchbook of mine. Just got this year. Holidays. I'll do the goat first. So, something I talked about in my class is that this began with a photo of a goat that I then turned into a cartoon of a goat. And then, you know, more further abstracted. I'm putting this up where I can look at it. And then this sort of abstracted but stylized. And I'm going to play with stylization and abstraction both in different directions. I shared my blog for the class that classic series of bulls by Picasso, and I like to point that out in my cartooning classes. A really good example of simplifying form. And once I've done a couple of drawings like this, I want to put the photo aside and start working on processing the ideas and the shapes that I saw in it for the first couple of sketches and developing them into my own shape language and aesthetics. And the photo, I can look at it. It's not like I'm forbidden from looking at it, but I want it to be away and not correcting me. So I gotta move the mic a little bit. It's bumping in my hand. And at this point too, along with playing with shape, I want to start thinking about gesture in terms of movement. I need to look at that. So, even when you're doing cartooning, when shape sort of bugs you when you're trying to simplify the form of an animal, it's a good chance that your instinctive memory of what that animal looks like is informing you. I don't see it. I don't have a visual memory, but I can feel it. And if sometimes I can remember what that thing is, but other times the trick is to check your hunch. So I'm just Googling goat leg anatomy now because I had a gut instinct about where the joints are and everything. Yeah, I was correct. Okay. And before I went further, I wanted to revisit that and figure out what I was doing that was feeling limiting and unnatural. So that's what the pelvis and leg is like. This is a rear view. Curious, how wide is that pelvis? Oh, it's pretty narrow. Wow. Okay. Just like a little block. And so these little bits of anatomy reference, even though you're doing cartooning, when you're unsure of or it feels weird, that's the thing to go look for to figure out how to inform your decision-making process about how you're simplifying your, in this case, a goat. It's got, yeah, like that. And because it's kicking up, the tail's kicking up too, the whole pelvis. So I think I know one of the things I'm missing here is the way the back would move. I'm very much exaggerating the hooves, elongating them, and stylizing customizing a little. There we go. That's got some life. And now I'm looking at the anatomy. I can also check. So, goats, like a lot of hooved animals, you want to look at. Once I didn't erase it totally, I wanted to lighten that leg because I'm moving it, but I want to be able to see where it was. Because if I erase it totally, I'm more likely to just repeat my mistakes. I want it to reckon against and feel what I'm trying to do. So goats, legs, this is their toenail. That's their shoulder blade, and then right around here is the upper arm, and right around here is the lower arm, and then that's their knee. Not their knee, sorry, their ankle. And then they're kind of balanced up on the tippy toes. Again, exaggerated hooves. And let's get in the scruffs and all of the what this is that kicking out. So I'm not looking at any poses. I'm extrapolating from the anatomy and simplifying the shapes. The head's too big, intuitively, and too realistic. Yeah. They got that. It's too dog-like. Too dog-like. There we go. No, that's not it either. Kind of refined it after I was doing it in class. I was figuring out the shape, and I was doing it when I was doing my character for the box. But sometimes you have to explore to refine your way to the shape. There it is. Just doing very quick cleanups with a black wing. Sort of the equivalent, for those who have used one, of a softish 2B to 4B pencil, but with a bit more firmness. Simplification up to others. Just a shape. Hatching. Cross hatching to show the roundness of the belly. The feathered stroke. It's very abrupt. It's not a very long feathered stroke. So a long feathered stroke would be that. An abrupt, shorter. But very useful in this kind of shading situation. Now, I was asked during the last video, I should say, last stream, in the chat, how does one remember anatomy to draw later on without seeing it in your head? Which might be also a specific reference to videos I've posted about being aphantasic, because I don't see pictures in my head. And I've learned pretty good anatomy just from a secret trick. You ready? You want to hear the secret? Are you ready for the secret? How bad do you want it? Are you willing to commit to do what it takes? The secret skill. No. Well, it does take some commitment. Brute force practice. Deliberate, focused practice. So generally, like picking subjects and very repeatedly studying them. So in the case of human anatomy, people anatomy, getting reference, life art, anatomy, skeletons, musculature. Copying it, memorizing it, repeat, rinse, repeat, copy it, draw it, go to life art class, draw the human body doing things. Try live gesture with moving subjects. That's my dynamic drawing course's kink. And it really forces you to be quick on your feet and practice very active observing. What I sometimes euphemistically refer to as the art of seeing, which is a bit like that's the name of a book, which is about a different thing, really. But it's the concept that it was also taught to me when I was young is this sort of like art of mindful awareness and attention to what we are thinking about and looking at. And more fun. I mentioned often in my class, don't trace. You're redrawing when you're cleaning up. You need to sharpen it. And that's exactly what that was. Having some fun with the chin hair, and then I've made ridiculously long floppy ears that are going crazy. So sort of saw something like that, and I've seen videos. It's sort of like, and I'm doing an approximation. I did look at some reference I'm making a point of not looking at it throughout this entire thing because I kind of want to let my imagination play. And I'm testing my familiarity, having drawn a goat 3 times in the last 24 hours and then slept on it once. How much of it I can call up. And then if I really wanted to get super awesome at goats, I would very intentionally sketch goats and nothing but goats. Well, that's not true, not nothing but. I would make a focused practice of it, which means I would carve out about 40 minutes and I would sit down and assemble my tools and any reference if that particular session required it, and for 15 minutes just to put myself to this task without distractions. And then I would step back and I would, as dispassionately as possible, assess the results. And I always talk about in class, it's very important that this does not sound like, oh, this sucks, I suck. We're not being critical, we're evaluating. And was the work able to accomplish the goals? What's my goat look like? Does it feel like a goat? Is it goaty? Does it have the energy or shape language that I was looking for? I just looked up and saw an interesting shape for a very lean looking short-haired goat. There we go, we got the whole leg. Well, almost enough. My front legs are getting too scribbly. Lighten that up and clean it up. I got sidetracked. So, I was asked again in the chat, how does one memorize anatomy so that you can draw it without seeing it in your head? And the answer is by drawing it while seeing it repeatedly. Seeing it with your eyes. Get reference, look at the real thing, draw, 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 draw. And eventually, you start to recognize the patterns and get familiar with it, and you can feel it in your hand. For me, drawing memory, or like what things look like and how to recreate them, becomes after a while a kinesthetic sense. I've horse-liked his neck. There we go. I drew a lot of horses last year, and there's a almost horse-likeness to that shape, but I'm gonna simplify it further. That is relatively accurate, but feels way too dog-like. That's fine. You know what? Standing in grass and I cannot see who's. So I'm not going to pretend to know in this particular case. Because it just feels more like what I'm seeing to draw what I'm seeing. Which is a good point to make about observational drawing. Yep, I've shortened some of these legs. That's what that is. No, it's there. This is an important part of the study process, is draw it, feel it. If it's off, revise it. Do note that whenever I'm erasing, I'm never trying to totally eviscerate the erased thing, because I want to keep some of the information so I can see what I'm doing. I mentioned it before, and I keep mentioning it. It's because it's important. It's kind of like a little bushy. That's cute. Goats. I feel like the nose could be more comical and a bit more authentically round. There. And there. Yeah. There we go. I call this hunting and pecking. Sometimes the shapes come too easy, but sometimes you gotta work at it, and that's okay. I wanted to go the other direction too. Let's see, over here. Yeah, you can see that fine, right? Yeah, it's good. We can see the whole table. It's good. Small box, big box, big. Now, I'm getting the directionality of those. There we go. It's that. There it is. I know I've seen this before. There's a thing I'm thinking of, and I want to see if I'm misremembering it. Yeah. Yeah, there we go. That's what I was trying to figure out. That answers that question. Okay, the shapes that I could kind of remember, but I could not see. That give me the goaty personality. And so... a professional memory. I look it up. Use a reference. I study the subject until I am comfortable that I know it. And then when I feel like I am, I put away the reference. But, like I was saying about the skeleton I drew for my own study, and I'm putting in the front as a frontispiece for Mind Engine. See the last video for what I'm talking about. As I mentioned earlier tonight, you still want to go back and like study the stuff, revisit, refresh, retool. You know, also like learning new things too is great, but don't just assume that once you learn a thing that it's there and good and stuck. People always need to keep maintaining their skills and studying, and in order to see or know how to draw a thing, which is what anatomy is about, but also about like the aspect of world building that involves being aware enough of the physical properties that come into play in engineering so that you can convincingly draw stuff. And that invariably ends up meaning that you study how a wide range of stuff got made. Which suits me because I'm curious and nerdy. But, you know, it does basically translate to study all the things, all the time. And I'm not like trying to rush the hind legs and stuff here in terms of being impatient. I'm intentionally doing them more gesturally and loosely because I was trying to play with focus. So the idea is I'm pushing them back in depth and space because they're a little out of focus compared to some of the cleaner sharp lines that we're going to have up front. Give a sense of depth. Tighter details around the head, clarifying faces, get personality, some sharp lines in the foreground. This is also still a rough sketch, but then softer, blockier, rough stuff in the back for depth. So, it's kind of the idea here is that you learn about things through repetition and exploration. You can also play with, whoops, sorry about that, form. Half an hour, we're good. Okay. So we have our cat. I remember the idea of a cat, but I want to play with this. Excuse me. I had some dinner and coffee. Okay, a little more coffee. By the way, I'm not going to draw any new Cats movie stuff. It's not my thing. classic catty shape. So I've got to get back to the question that I keep meandering away from. Ultimately, what ends up happening is the same way you know how to spell a word without stopping to think too much about it after a while, which is a challenge for me because I'm dyslexic, but eventually I'm able to memorize what I call, or actually not just I call, they're traditionally called trigger words, the words that I most frequently habitually seem to get wrong due to whatever weirdness my slight neurodivergence leads to in that department. And eventually I start catching myself. I usually make the mistake still, but then I start remembering to look for it and correct it. That's a key part of learning how to draw too. Like, try doing things, and then as you start spotting the ways in which you sometimes goof it up, you should start establishing some patterns a little bit. The idea is not to be too repetitive about it, so you don't want it to be like a pattern like you always get this at all. If you're recognizing that you frequently have an issue with, say, drawing hands or feet or whatever piece of anatomy it is that you're finding particularly challenging to remember and recreate, you make a deliberate focused study of that bit. Go draw it like 30, 40, 50, 100 times. Brute force practicing, as I referred to it at the beginning. And you want to give them like tiger stripes. Because that's fun. And at a certain point, I'm just going to stop. I want us to be cartoony. So just, drawing them, the thing, a bunch of times till you basically can feel your way around the dark around it. No, you know what, better? That's too graceful. We want to give him that. He gets a cottontail. That's it, go, there you are. I'm just sort of feeling my way into this, but the style of drawing I've done is turn this into kind of like creature creation a little bit. Let's get rid of that. Shopping time. This is kind of sketching too. I'm not trying to be super clean because it's rough ideation and playing and practicing. So I really don't want to get hung up on perfectionism or being too tidy. So letting it be loose and rough as I sketch is part of it. And then if I really like it, it's pretty fun, I would then do a cleanup. And that would be there we go. So the roller pin eraser trick. I want to lighten something up and do a cleanup. Don't erase entirely. Just get enough off the page so I can see what it is that I want to do. And for the things that I'm going to change, I can see that information. I'm drawing this little picture to the book, by the way. I'm aware. Make it a fun little round shape. These guys are interesting. I'm not sure what I'll do with the cats with bunny ears, but I'm pretty sure I will come back to them as a silly visual. What would you do with a cat with no ears? Not with no ears, sorry, with bunny ears. Like, well, I don't mean what you would do with it, but like, how would you draw that? Show me. All right. Good evening, Internet. Again, this was a demo, revisiting and mounting ideas, studies of particular animals, simplifying, cartooning. We're going to play with some different styles of cartooning, but this was just me kind of following my own id. And that's it for tonight. Go check out my Patreon. Pledge $10 to become a student patron, $2 to read all my comics, and also classes at Syn Studio in Montreal, but online, so anywhere you got a good connection. Dynamic drawing, intro to cartooning, which this is for. This semester, next semester, we'll be making comics. Take care, be well, stay creative, stay sane, wash your hands.